All right, so let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Bob Vance with Home Remodeler SEO. And first, I wanted to say thank you for everyone for joining today. We really appreciate everyone joining us on today's training session. We're going to be talking about Google Maps and how to get your home improvement or remodeling business ranked on the Google Maps section in your area. I'm super excited to bring you this training because of how important this topic is. And it's part of our bigger series on how to implement your overall marketing strategy for 2022. Google Maps marketing is part of our overall digital dominance method. If you've been watching our previous workshops, as part of your overall marketing strategy, start with your website and getting it optimized for the search engines. Then you work on building your 5-star reputation. And then Google Maps marketing should be a big part of that strategy. A cornerstone of any successful marketing strategy will undoubtedly involve getting ranked on Google Maps, and preferably in the coveted 3-pack where 62 to 65% of all phone calls come from. And so today is about ranking on Google Maps specifically. And then beyond that, as part of your overall strategy, you have paid ad strategies, retargeting, social media, etc. But today we're going to focus on the Google Maps marketing aspect. So who am I and why should you pay attention to me? I'll admit I'm a recovering home remodeler and real estate investor who decided to put my computer expertise to use helping other business owners grow their companies with digital marketing. I'm the author of Internet Marketing for Contractors and Builders, How to Triple Your Sales by Leveraging the Power of Online Marketing. I'm also a member of NARI, the NKBA, as well as the NAHB and the Denver HBA. Self-admittedly, I'm a computer geek that started coding way back in the day, and now I'm widely accepted as the premier expert when it comes to internet marketing for builders, contractors, and remodelers. And that's because we've worked with contractors and remodeling businesses all across the country. So before we get started today, I want to ask you to give your undivided attention. How to rank on Google Maps is an extremely important topic for your home improvement or remodeling business. And I know how busy every business owner is, and everyone nowadays has so much going on. You've got, what we really want to do is really kind of focus in here on this webinar. Right now, you probably got your cell phone sitting in front of you. You probably have multiple tabs open on your computer's browser. You probably have your email open, and yet you're still trying to listen to a training like this, which it makes it really hard to focus, and it's hard to get the most value out of this webinar. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead, turn off your cell phone, turn off Facebook, put aside all your distractions. If you are a home improvement or remodeling business that is serious about growing your sales, getting ranked on Google Maps is the way to take your home improvement or remodeling business to the next level. And so this next 60 to 75 minutes could really change your life, and it could change the outcome for your business and your business revenue in 2022 and going onward. So if you're serious, go ahead, shut everything down, give this your undivided attention. I promise you I'm going to add value and that you're going to get a lot out of this training. Here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to look at the latest trends and changes in the Google Maps listings. Google is constantly changing from Google Maps to Google Places to Google My Business. And who knows what name iteration is next after the recent change to Google Business Profile. So I'm going to talk about what's changed and what the current setup is on Google Maps. I'm going to talk about the 5 biggest issues that could be preventing you from ranking. There are a lot of things that worked in the past that aren't working today. And it's good for you to think and realize, okay, wait a minute, that's not effective anymore. It doesn't seem to be working. Now I know why I might be losing rankings, or why call volume is dropping, or why I slipped off page 1 and I'm not ranking anymore today. I'm also going to unpack our proven model for getting ranked on Google Maps in the top 3 listings. Who cares if you're on Google Maps on page 6 or 7, because the lion's share of the searches happen on page 1, and that's where over 95% of phone calls come from. So we have a proven model for getting your home improvement or remodeling business ranked in that 3-pack. And I'm going to share the tools and systems to automate the heavy lifting. I'm going to explain our proven strategy. I'm going to show real life examples. And then I'm going to share with you some tools to automate all of this for you so you're not having to stitch this together one citation at a time, one review at a time, etc. Now, here at Home Remodeler SEO, we've had the opportunity to work one-on-one with numerous home improvement and remodeling companies all throughout the country. We've been able to dive into their company, see their values and their goals, and to really jump into their online marketing strategy and to help them grow from having virtually no placement online in the Google search results to the point where they're now dominating in their local markets. Many of our clients have seen over $1 million increase in revenue as a direct result of our services. I say all of this so you know that what I'm going to be sharing with you isn't based on a book that I read somewhere. It's not based on untested theory. It's based on real world experience working with home improvement and remodeling companies just like yours. Most of us are of the mind that you want to learn from someone that has actually done what they're teaching and can actually show you real examples and proof. Again, this presentation isn't a sales pitch for you to hire us, but obviously, if as you go through this training and you see, okay, this is a real company with real proven strategies that really work, and you think it might be good to work with us one-on-one and let us do some of the stuff for you, then we'd love that opportunity to talk with you. And you can reach out to us anytime and call our office. We'd love the opportunity to talk with you and kind of look at what you're doing today and show you how we can help you get even better results for your home improvement and remodeling business and your digital marketing strategies. So let's dive into the training and why we are here today. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about why Google Maps are so important for your online marketing success. When somebody runs a search on Google, they see so many different results. You have the paid ad listings at the top, and then you have the Google Maps listings, and then finally there are the organic listings below the maps. So the question becomes, does it even matter whether you rank on the Google map? Is that even a place that people look? So we did some heat map studies, and we actually found that the lion's share of the clicks go to the Google Maps listings. A heat map is where we record the screen and follow along as somebody is moving their mouse around the page, and where they spend most of their time with the mouse, where they click, and all that activity shows up on the heat map as the brighter red colors. And it helps us figure out where people are searching and what parts of the page attract the most attention. Are people clicking this area, or are they clicking some other area? And then what really matters and what really makes the biggest difference in that user behavior based on the content you're serving them. If you look at the results, 44% of the clicks went to the local map listings in total, and 20% clicked on the paid links. And as I said, 44% clicked on the maps, 8% clicked on view more in order to see more of these local maps, these local companies in Google Maps. And then 30% clicked on the organic listings. Obviously, there's a pretty even distribution. Some people are clicking organic, so you want to have SEO employed on your website, like I talked about in our last training workshop. Some people are clicking on paid listings, and so you want to have a pay per click strategy that makes sure you're dominating and that you're showing up for the PPC results in your area. But ultimately, the number one place that users click on is the map listings. That's why this is so important, and that's why we're spending a full webinar workshop here just talking about Google Maps as its own marketing strategy. A couple big changes that have happened over the past couple of years with Maps. First of all, Google changed from a 7-pack to a 3-pack, and all that means is that when you used to search, you could see 7 results in Maps, and now you only see 3 results. Google now is also starting to serve pay-per-click listings in the map area. These are your local service ads. They're expanding with these Google Home services in different markets, and that really depends on your industry specifically and whether Google has rolled out local service listings for your particular area. And Google Maps used to be called Google Places, and then for a while they were Google Plus Local, and then Google My Business, and now your Google Business page is called Google Business Profile. And that's where your map listing is controlled within your dashboard. Just going to pull up a couple of visuals of this. On the left here is what you used to see when you ran a search for, say, Oklahoma City plumber long ago. That's gone now. Now you're only seeing 3 companies listed. And what this means for you as the owner of a home improvement or remodeling business, knowing that most people click on that map that's there, is a huge opportunity for being one of the guys in the top 3 results. Most marketing studies have reported that's where about 65% of all calls are coming from. So that's pretty significant. You look at the 80-20 principle. This is one I like to tout as an example. 80% of the results typically come from 20% of the activities. That means 80% of the traffic, 80% of the leads, 80% of the calls that you're getting are going to only 20% of the companies that are playing in the SEO world of Google search. If you're in the top 3, it's a great opportunity. That means you're going to get a lot more calls. However, if you're not in the top 3, or maybe you're in the 4th or 5th spot, you're going to notice the relatively large drop off in lead flow. That's a huge impact on local businesses as Google went from the 7-pack down to the 3-pack. Google is now showing ad results within the Google Maps results as well. You've probably seen that in your area. So if you go to view more results, and if you're just looking at the map area itself in your own market, a lot of times you're going to be seeing paid ad listings up along the top. And that's important because it's really showing the synergy between pay-per-click, Google AdWords, Google Maps, and SEO for organic SEO. You want to be showing up in all the places that your customers are looking. Before the advent and popularity of Google Maps, it used to be organic results got 100% of the clicks. Now Google pay-per-click and Google AdWords are starting to come into that and getting and stealing more of the clicks away from organic. And so you want to pay attention to that trend and be aware, because who knows, maybe Google starts to serve 4 or 5 paid listings in the map results, making the other maps results less effective at getting those clicks. This will have a huge impact. So you just want to be aware of that trend and how it might impact your home improvement or remodeling business. The other big thing that's changed is this move to Google's local home service ads. If I go to Google right now and I typed in Los Angeles Roofing Company, Google is now showing their own sponsored local service ads at the top here. Just to note, it's going to be different for everyone based on your area and whether Google has rolled out local service ads for your industry. I'm spending some time talking about it because this is probably headed your way if it's not there already. Usually they're testing in California first to see if it's viable. Is it a good user experience, that sort of thing. But when I ran this search from this screenshot this week, you should notice that the local service ads dominate at the top of the page. And then there are the paid ads, the PPC ads. Then finally, the maps listings are there. And then finally below that are your organic results on the page. This area right here on the top is what they call the Google Home Service ads, otherwise known as Google Guaranteed ads. This is more of a pay for leads type of service, kind of like Home Advisor, Angie's, but instead powered by Google. And it's important to know what this is and to kind of start to position yourself to be on home service ads so that if it gets rolled out in your area, you're ready for it. I'm just showing you this now so that in case you're not aware of local service ads yet, or you're not running them, but you want to learn more, you should definitely dive in and get involved in this. So let's spend a little bit of time talking about what it takes to get added to Google Home Services in your market. For those of you that's not in your market, just pay attention because this might be where we're headed and you want to be out in front of this opportunity. The first step is you have to have an advanced verification process. That's where Google is really verifying you and your company and giving you a Google Home Services guarantee where the customer has nothing to lose. And Google is essentially going to underwrite your services to guarantee your services, in other words. So in order to play in Google Home Services, you have to have an advanced verified listing through Google Home Services. Google will run a background check on your company, powered through a security company called Pinkerton. You also have to have a real physical location, so you can't play in Google Home Services with a home address or a PO box. So that's kind of the initial process to get involved with Google Local Service Ads. If you have not done this, you can go to ads.google.com/local services/signup. So here's is some of what they're asking for straight from Google. This is the kind of business and legal information that they're looking for from you. So basically your company's EIN number, they're looking for your professional business licenses that you might have. They want to make sure of your hours or the actual hours that you're available. And that you're only selecting cities that are part of the program. They're doing more of an in-depth process here because they're going to be putting their name behind your organization on their search engine, guaranteeing that job basically. So it's their reputation on the line too. And so once you get through that sign up and verification process, here's where you end up. Earlier we searched for a Los Angeles roofing company, and according to the area where you're searching from, you get these Google guaranteed listings with their call hours. Assuming somebody clicks through to you, it sends a request bid message to you, kind of like an alert notification or similar to what you would do through a home advisor type of lead generation service. For this particular roofing search example, your cost of each lead is generally going to be around $40 to $50. And that all depends on your geographic market. So if you put this into play properly, there might be a short window of opportunity where you can really start to dominate the search results before all your competitors kind of jump in on this. And so here's that example in Los Angeles for a roofing company. And you can see that it's possible to own all 4 sections of the search results on page 1 of Google. You can be in the local home services listings if you go through the advanced verification process that I just talked about. And it showcases all of your reviews and your 5-star reputation. Then you can have Google's paid ads section or Google AdWords, which operates in every market. And next you have the maps listings and what has become known as the 3-pack. And then of course, there are the organic listings below that. If you play this correctly, it could be a great opportunity to really own the search engine results page, which of course is what every business owner would want to do in their respective markets. I like to boil it down to real estate, trying to own as much real estate as you can. And in this case, as much real estate on page 1 of Google as you can. And so that's Google Home Services. You should definitely take a look into this opportunity. If they're not available in your market yet, just be aware of it. Based on sitting on this session today, you kind of know what it is, and you'll be 2 or 3 steps ahead of your competition when they do roll these ads out in your city. And we'll also be doing another workshop specifically on Google Local Service Ads to help you with this. One of the main things is Google, up to right now, they're trying to reduce the increasing number of spam listings. There's a recent report out by Google right now that they've been able to eliminate 70% of spam listings since 2015. They're on a very aggressive strategy of going after companies that don't have real addresses, that are setting up fake locations just for the sake of increasing their presence on map listings. And it's interesting to note that they are not just removing their fake listings, but they are removing them completely from ever showing in maps again. For those of you that play by the rules, that have a real location, that's great news. And you can continue to win the day when it comes to owning valuable digital real estate in the Google Maps 3-pack. So you want to make sure Google, you keep them on your side. It makes it much easier to win in the online world if Google's your friend and not your enemy. So let's talk about a couple things that might be hurting you right now as it relates to ranking on Google Maps. First, you have to have an office in the city that you're targeting to rank for on maps. I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but if you're trying to rank on maps and you don't have a location in that particular city, then the chance of you ranking in that 3-pack is very slim. So you want to get a real physical location in the location that you serve. The other thing is if you try to spam Google with fake locations, you set up a bunch of PO boxes, for example, or a bunch of virtual offices. You're using your aunt and uncle's houses in order to claim Google Maps. That could be impacting your results negatively. Your best bet is to get into those listings in your dashboard, mark them as closed, get them removed from your Google Maps, and set up a real physical location and properly claim it, which we'll be talking about how to do that. The other thing that could be hurting you is if you have inconsistency of your name, address, and phone number, what you might have heard referred to as NAP. What this means is that if you're listed one way on Google and then your contact info is listed in a different way on Yelp or Angie's List or a different way on yellowpages.com, that could be hurting your ability to rank. Google wants to see the consistency of your name, address, and phone number and know that you're the same business that is referenced elsewhere. Remember, Google bots run these searches, so it needs to match exactly. And so we're going to dive deep into that as well as we go. The other thing is, did you spam your city name into your company name? If you're Ralph's Remodeling, for instance, then that's your company name, right? But if you went into your Google business profile listing and you change your name to Ralph's Remodeling San Diego, California, then Google will catch on to that. And currently, Google even has a Google Suggest action, whereby others patrolling in that, or even your competitors, can mark your listing as closed or at least suggest a name change for Google to manually review that listing and that name. Spamming your company name, there was a time where that seemed like a great move 3 to 5 years ago, but having your city and the company name on Google Maps, it actually helped you rank higher. Today, that's really going to hurt because Google considers that a complete infraction of its Google business profile rules and policies. So you want to make sure that your company name is just showing it exactly as the actual company name. The other critical factor is whether you have enough reviews and do you have real reviews? What I should have wrote here is have you created fake reviews for your company? Google pays a lot of attention to the reviewer's profile. And so there are certain companies that went out and created fake Google accounts, or they have family members create fake Google accounts, and then they write reviews from those accounts. But then these companies saw a drop in their Google search results, and that obviously impacts revenue. So these are 5 things that really could be preventing you from ranking on Google Maps that you either want to fix or at least be aware of it, because you might have done it inadvertently, or possibly one of your previous marketing providers might have done something of this nature without you even realizing it. And so now I want to dive into our proven formula for getting ranked on Google Maps. It really comes down to 4 key elements. The first is having a properly claimed and optimized Google business profile listing. The second is having a lot of citations, which are references of your company's name, in other words, as well as having your name, address, and your phone number across the entire web with consistency of how your company is being referenced on all the various sites and directories that you're on, like Google, Facebook, Angie's List, Yellow Pages, Yelp, on and on it goes. Those are the types of listings that I'm referring to. And then you should have lots of reviews from your true customers in your actual service area. If you look at the other things being equal, everything is equal across the board. One being that you have a real location, you have a lot of citations and consistency with your name, address, and phone number, your NAP in other words. He who has the most reviews tends to win the day when it comes to Google, with all other factors being equal. I believe it's going to continue to win the day well into the future too. It really is one of the best barometers of how good a company really is when all you have to look at is their internet results. So this reinforces the point that you want to make sure that you have a systematic approach to getting reviews from your customers in your real service area on a consistent basis. And we'll go into that more as well as we go here. And then the fourth is just making sure you have proper on-page SEO optimization of your website to where it's clear to Google that you're serving the exact area that you said you served inside your Google Maps listing, your Google Business Profile dashboard, in other words. And so we're going to drill down into all of this. It's relatively simple, really. It's like I talked about earlier. I want to focus on the 20% of things that you can do well that will drive 80% of the results. There are many things that you can do to contribute to your Google Maps ranking, like improving your on-page SEO for your website, but all that really goes beyond the scope of this training. So if you get these 4 elements right, you're going to be well ahead of many of your competitors. Let's talk a little bit about how to claim or optimize your Google Business Profile listing. You do this by going to google.com/mybusiness. This is where you would go and you would either sign in with your Google account or you go to Manage Now in order to go through the verification process and get your new listing signed up. This process is changing all the time with different screen views and pictures, but the gist is you always want to search for Google My Business help if you need to get set up for signing up. Most of you probably already have your Google page, but there's still some companies that just aren't aware of what all they need to do to get that set up. In most cases, I would think that you already have that listing, and it's just a matter of logging in. And then once you get in there, you should see a screenshot that has your listing, all your contact info, and additional info beyond that. And here's where you click on info in order to update that information. You're going to want to make sure that you optimize everything in your dashboard that you can in order to get better rankings in the Google Maps section. One thing that I'm going to challenge you to do is to get access to your Google Business Profile listing. Most of you guys have third-party contractors who typically handle this for you. Whether it's a company like ours or some other company, you want to at least have your own access to your own Google My Business listing. That way you can look in at different insights. You'll be able to know what's going on in terms of reviews for a company. And you can respond to reviews if you want to. You can make other updates. You could upload photos. You can make sure there are no infractions or other error messages from Google that are actually preventing you from ranking well on maps. Usually, access to your dashboard will be from your Google Gmail account that you signed up with, or if you're part of the Google Suite for businesses, it's your company email combined with the username and password for your account. So the bottom line is to try to track down your Google Business Profile login access so that you have that. And then there are some things that you want to pay attention to. First is to make sure you have your login. You don't do anything else from today's training, but you go back to your current provider or whoever it is that originally did your sign up and just say, hey, can you add me as a user on my Google Business Profile listing? Or can you give me my username and password? And they'll give that to you, no problem. That gives you control and lets you keep tabs on your own listing and results. It also gives you the power that you really need to have within your business, especially for those on this workshop that have had bad experiences with previous marketing companies who hold your listing hostage or end up never giving you access to it. So everything is accessed from this dashboard, and it will look like this when you log into the dashboard. The next thing is to make sure that you update your company name so that it doesn't have any additional information or keywords stuffed in there. Again, you're going into info in the Google Business Profile, and here you can edit each section of your dashboard individually. But you also want to make sure that you have the right category selected. A lot of times, if Google Maps or Google Business Profile was claimed or set up years ago, they won't have the right category picked. So you might not have any category right now at all, or at least not the best one for your industry. Next is your address. The main thing with your address is just to make sure that it's listed the same exact way on Google Maps as how it's listed on Yelp, on Angie's List, on Facebook, on City Search, your website, etc. So if you have it listed as, say 123 Main Street in Austin, Texas, then make sure it's not 123 Main Street in Austin, Texas, suite number A somewhere else, or hashtag number A, where suite isn't spelled out. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole here, but I just kind of want to show you some common mistakes, but I also want to show you that this isn't complicated. That you can't just dive in here yourself and see the stuff right here in your own dashboard. You can. It's very easy for you to be able to be up on this. Also, update your hours of operation. And if you're truly available to take calls 24/7, feel free to put that you're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you're not, it's probably better to limit those hours so you're not getting calls at all times of the day or night. But I will say, now, if you have this listed as Monday to Friday, say from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., if somebody searches on Google at 4 p.m., they're going to potentially not be able to see you, or if they do, it's going to say close, and obviously nobody is going to call a company that's listed as closed. So pay attention to this. And another idea too, if you're a smaller company or don't have someone dedicated to answering your phone, you should be using a third-party answering service. That way you can mark that you're open 24/7, because you don't want to lose people who are looking on the weekend or after hours during the week when you're not answering your phone, and they're probably going to go call another company that they find in search results, and you'll probably never get a hold of them if they do leave a number to call back to. So next in optimization of your dashboard is your phone number. This one can cause issues on a lot of occasions. A lot of companies do one of two things wrong when it comes to their phone number. They'll either use an 800 toll-free number because they serve multiple area codes. And this actually makes sense for somebody that might get turned off to your company because you have, say a 303 area code here in Denver, but yet they're searching from a 970 area code up in the mountains. Anecdotal evidence shows us that 800 area code numbers don't rank very well on Google Maps. Typically, it's no more than 1 in 10. Google Maps is about local companies, so they want you using local phone numbers, not national toll-free numbers. So it's really in your best interest to use a local area code number in the Maps listings. The other thing is to use your main company phone number on Google Maps whenever possible. Again, we're talking about consistency, and we'll continue to talk more about this as we go. But the problem is that a lot of people want to put a tracking number on their Maps listing. Now, while that's cool, so that you can say, hey, look at how many calls I got directly from Google Maps, the problem is that it can create inconsistency in your NAP profile all across the internet. In reality, Google is looking at your phone number as a signal for how authoritative you are as a company and how long you've been around. So if you have a number that's been around for 10 or 15 years, believe it or not, Google has that phone number in their index, and then that becomes the authority factor that contributes to your local listing ranking better. I tend to say, let's find your most authentic number for your company, and let's put that in there as your priority, your primary phone number. But if nothing else, if you do want to use a tracking number, and we're big advocates of that, make sure they're using that same tracking number that's on Google Maps, on Yelp or Facebook, on City Search, all across the internet and online directories as well, so that it matches up. And then, of course, upload photos to your Google Business Profile. Google wants to see pictures in the Google Business Profile listing, and there's all kinds of opportunities to get creative with your photos. Now you can just come into your dashboard, upload your photos, and those will get added straight into your Google My Business listing for your potential customers to see, see examples, before and after examples of your projects. And so those are the main things that you want to do. Use your local phone number and your actual address. Don't use a PO box. If you put a PO box for any reason, maybe it's just because you don't have an address. It's almost like saying, Google, please remove me from Google Maps. Google will eventually catch this. They will remove you. And then all that effort and any money that you put in to SEO or anything is all going to be wasted. So I just say, don't use PO boxes anymore. Also, try not to use a home address if you can. Try to get a real physical address, whether it's your real office or a warehouse or a commercial building that you're in. Then that's where you need to put into Google My Business to make sure that you're playing the Maps game to its true effectiveness. That's the process. You don't really have to overthink this. You don't have to overcomplicate this too much, but that's what you need to do. Just make sure it's nice and clean, and above all, follow follow Google's guidelines and best practices. So when it comes to getting the most out of your Google Business Profile listing, you'll want to adhere to Google's best practices. One of the most important things that you can do to stay relevant in Google's eyes is to update your photos you're posting to your page, and to do this on a consistent basis. Another feature of your Google Business Profile is the ability to add social posts to your page. You don't need to post every day, but at a minimum, you should be posting each month and featuring your services and the great work you're doing, or maybe even each week or at least every other week. It's not like Facebook. You don't have to post every day, but you do want to stay relevant. Also, make sure that you're responding to your reviews, and that means both positive and negative reviews. Google likes to see that interaction with you and your customers, and your customers will also appreciate your response. It helps other potential customers too see how you engage with customers and how you work on maintaining those relationships. And then you should also make sure that you answer any questions posted by potential customers. These Q&As, as they're called, they're monitored by Google. So in addition to supplying customers with answers to their questions, you're also showing Google the engagement they're looking for. Again, all other things being equal, Google will show some preference to companies that get the most out of their Google Business Profile listing through these types of interactions and engagement. What's really cool is once you have this synced up and you have control of your Google Map listing, then you can get in there and see how things look. You can make sure that you're properly verified. You can optimize your listing and make it really stand out. And then you can also have access to really neat insights. You can see how many people searched for you, how many views you've shown up for, how many actions people took on your listing. And even better is that you can sync this to your Google Analytics account as well as to your YouTube channel as well. So it ties all your analytics together. What we like to look at though mainly is the insights that your dashboard provides. And from there, we can drill down into the data and really see local specific analytics for your business on Google Maps. Now, one of my favorite things to look at down here in the lower right-hand corner is how many calls you actually got from your map listing. That's people actually going in here from Google Maps search results, and while on there, they're clicking the click to call phone button. So think about that for a moment. With our client that we're showing here, they got 48 calls. And this is not the total number of calls from everything else that they're doing, but the number of calls directly from their Google Maps listing only, and just in the last 30 days. So if this isn't reason enough for you to say, hey, I need to gain control of my Google Maps listing, I don't know what would be. 48 calls for a remodeling company from just one source, Google Maps, is quite significant. So you want to make sure you have access to this information. You want to be able to see what's going on. And you also, gives you a direct feed for your online reviews as well. So you'll get alerted. You'll be able to see the reviews. You'll be able to actually respond to reviews as the company owner. And that's really a great practice to get into anyway, and one that Google looks very favorably upon. We also put strategies into place to help our clients build online reviews. And we set up alerts for when new reviews come in so that you can respond and thank the customer for their generous feedback of your company. So hopefully this was helpful. I hope you get to see a little bit of a visual of what Google Business Profile actually looks like. Also why it's important to have access to your Google Business Profile listing. And we also talked about some of Google's best practices in order to make sure you're doing things right, or that your marketing providers are doing things right, and that there's no infractions or penalties that could be preventing you from ranking higher on Google Maps or even ranking at all. So that's the first step, to claim and optimize your Google Business Profile listing. And then it really is the most basic thing that you can do to contribute to your own online success. So right now, this is a good place to stop. I want to see if anyone has any questions for me. So Amy asked if you need a different dashboard for every location. Okay, so good question. And the answer is that you can manage multiple locations under the same account, as long as they have the same login, same email. Let's see, Jesse posted a question. Can you use a tracking number on your Google My Business listing? So a great question, Jesse. I kind of touched on that. We went over the importance of call tracking in our last SEO workshop when we touched on ROI tracking. The short answer is that you can use a tracking number as long as you're using that same number everywhere in order to keep your phone number consistent all across the web. It's that name, address, phone number consistency that we are talking about. And so for me, that's a really good place to lead in to what we're going to cover next. So the next thing is to have a lot of citations. Anyone can claim a Google Business Profile listing, and that's your placeholder on Google Maps. So if you're a home improvement or remodeling company or builder in any market, there are literally hundreds of other home improvement or remodeling companies usually trying to compete or trying to rank against you. So having a properly claimed and optimized business profile listing, it just put you on a list of one of 100 or more competitors, typically a couple hundred, a few hundred. The thing that's going to move you in ranking from 100 to page 1 of results, and ideally to get you in that 3-pack, it should be your goal, is your authority. Authority is driven by how many times does Google see your company's name, address, and phone number referenced across the internet, and also by how many online reviews that you have for your company. Those two things are the biggest authority factors that Google looks at right now. They're also trying to look at your website to see how relevant that is to a consumer's keyword search, and to see how authoritative your website is going to be for that consumer. So it's critical that you're listed with a lot of online directory sites, and it's critical that you're listed with consistency, that you're listed the same way, because if Google sees you on maps and the internet spiders that crawl the internet say, where else is Ralph's Remodeling listed? And you're maybe listed on Yelp or Angie's List or City Search, but your phone number is different than it was on Google Maps, well, that's kind of diluting your authority. And Google is not sure then what listing is yours and which listing may be wrong or may be another company, what might be the right phone number, the wrong phone number. So that's why NAP consistency is really so important when it comes to Google Maps. And you want to make sure that you limit any duplicate information. If you have your company somehow accidentally listed twice on Google Maps, that can also dilute your authority as well, and you'll get penalized by Google. So you want to have a lot of citations with the right name, address, and phone number, just like it is in Google Maps. And then you want to limit the inconsistency and duplication of information. Now, one of the key sticking points I see with this is that people say, okay, I know there's a lot of citation sites that I can go to. A lot of them you can go claim them manually yourself. And so they'll go and they'll add themselves to the Best of the Web, and they'll add themselves to Yelp or Hot Frog and Angie's List. And then they'll find something wrong on a site like superpages.com, for instance. And they'll say, oh man, well, that's not right. I've got the wrong phone number in there, or my company name is listed wrong. And they'll hit edit and they'll modify this info. They'll hit save, and they'll go back a week later and it'd be listed as incorrect again. And they'll say, like, what's going on here? And what they're missing is in this big picture here are the big data aggregators. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to these data aggregators, which are Factual, Axiom, InfoUSA, and Newstar. Now, these are the companies that hold the business information for basically the entire industry. What's listed in those sites gets propagated then to other secondary and third level citation sites. If you go to a site like manta.com or hotfrog.com, let's just say, and you update your listing, or maybe you even deleted a duplicate listing, but it's still listed on one of these 4 data aggregators, that data aggregator will probably wind up popping up again with the wrong information on a variety of other sites. So if you want to make sure that you get your main listings right here on these data aggregators first, But then you also need to pay attention to that information that's getting propagated out to the other directories that might be out there that are pulling from these data aggregator sites, kind of like a hub of where all the information is stored. When it comes to citation management, there's an easy way and there's a hard way. The hard way is get an entire list of citations and then go to this list of websites and manually create your account, manually enter your information, and then have a spreadsheet where all that stuff gets listed somewhere. So that's a way to do it, and that's fine if you have the time. But there's also tools that will help you automate this process and make this a lot easier for you. Some of the tools that are really popular in the local SEO industry are Bright Local, WhiteSpark, Advice Local, Moz Local, and Yext. You've probably heard a couple of these or all of them, or maybe you haven't heard of any of them. They're useful for different things. I will say that Bright Local and WhiteSpark are ones that a lot of agencies are using, and those tools are great for finding inconsistencies in your directory listings. You can put in your company's name, address, and phone number, and press a button and see where you're listed incorrectly, or whether you're not on various but important citation sources and need to be there. Advice Local, Moz Local, and Yext are all integrative tools that you can update your information in one place and have it update across the web. Moz Local is good, Advice Local is good, and then there's Yext. Yext is the most connected data provider with all the major online directories, and the benefit of Yext is that it has a direct feed into Google and to Yelp and to Bing and some of the other top directory sites. I'm not advocating for you to sign up to Yext because an end user, Yext is very expensive. It's affordable for more agencies like us. So that's just something to consider in terms of the tools. But when you go into these tools and you run a citation analysis report like this one you're seeing, this is what it's typically going to look like. It lets you know what listings you're on, how many are correct, and also shows you all the inconsistencies that your various listings may contain. So, if you need help with that or just want to see where you stand in terms of your consistency and overall presence all across the web, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be happy to help you with this analysis and get you pointed in the right direction. So here are my best practices for you. These strategies are the core of how to manage your directories, which all feed into your Google Business Profile listing, which we showed earlier at google.com/business. From there, you'll be able to use a tool like Yext to hit the top 50 online directories, and that's almost the only way to get on Yahoo. It immediately gets you on Bing as well with the correct map information. The ability to make a change once and hit all of the directories, the ability to put out a special promotion, have it hit all the directories, the ability to upload a photo in one place and have it go everywhere. That's the benefit of Yext. So that's the real advantage of Yext, and the ability to suppress duplicate listings. Duplicate listings can really hurt you in terms of how you rank on Google Maps. With Yext, it finds the duplicate listing, suppresses it, and kind of hides it from the internet. And then all of a sudden, now you're in a completely different place with your online authority. This is the fast track to get your directory listings under control and to move yourself up in terms of ranking on Google Maps. From there, you'll still want to get your listings updated on the data aggregator. And those are InfoUSA and Axiom are the two most important ones. And then you've got Newstar as well as Factual. From there, you're just controlling how you're showing up on different directories and how these third and fourth level directory services are pulling in your information that you didn't even know existed as a directory platform. As long as your main listings on Google, Yelp, and others are accurate, and you're managing all your directories for that accuracy, then that information accuracy will get carried over to all these other third and fourth level directories, many of which, like I said, you'll never have heard of and won't even know exist. Then from there, usually that's going to be enough authority from a citation management perspective to move to a very strong position in Google Maps. But in a lot of cases, it's not enough because there are a lot of companies that are already doing this, and you need to be doing more than them. So you want to use a tool like Bright Local or Whitespark to find new specific directories that you can add yourself to. Again, I like to focus on 80-20 rule in this particular aspect of Google Maps. Quantity has proven to be less important than quality when it comes to citation sources. Quality is those top 50 or so citations that's really usually enough to make you, very authoritative in your industry. But then there's going to be secondary services that you can be listed on as well that obviously can't hurt you. They're just going to help because it's more listings of you across the internet. So if you search a remodeling directory, or if you search a roofing company directory, say you search for best roofing companies in your area, you look for these other directory sites that list organizations like yours, and you get yourself added to that directory as well. That's going to give you more authority to your name, address, and phone number, which will improve your probability of ranking on Google Maps or even ranking on these local area directories that consumers are using. For example, if you're in a Tampa business directory, best businesses of Tampa, for instance, you can get yourself added to these types of directories after doing the primary work with the main directories and data aggregators. That's really how you can kind of move the needle in terms of your citations and your web presence standing out above your competitors. I have a list of the most authoritative niche specific directories that you can get yourself added to. This comes directly from Bright Local, so it's not our specific list that we built here at Home Remodeler SEO. But there's also lead services like Networks, which is a pay-per-lead service. There's Contractors.com, there's BuildZoom, there's BuilderSec, which is a free directory, HomeBlue, CraftJack, many other directories that you can get yourself listed on. If you want to access this list, you would go to www.homeremodellerseo.com/citations. What I would say is that you don't want to start there, though. You don't want to start with these secondary citation services. Start with your Google business profile, and then you go to the main 50 directories or so, and then you start to look at these other tier 2 and tier 3 directories in order to move the needle some more. And then once you have the 80% done, then you start to look at that last lap around the track, or that last 20% of what you need to do to rank better in Google Maps. What I've really found is when you really get this tightened up, and again, you have a real location, you have a real office in the city that you're trying to rank in, you do all this stuff correctly, and in combination of what we're going to talk about next, you can rank really well on Google Maps in your area. So I want to take a quick break here just for a few questions and answers that I've seen come into our chat. Alex asked, how often should he be checking citations for his roofing company? You really want to stay on top of this. So perhaps every quarter, you want to make sure to run a report. If you use a tool like Bright Local, that will give you a lot of insights into your internet profile and all the different directories that you're on. Another thing to keep in mind here too is to use tools like Yext to push out more information about your company, updates, coupons, updated info, the sort of updates that Google likes to see on a regular basis. Another question from Scott involves companies that hijack your listing in order to get you on that directory on that particular lead source website. So these sites are okay to work with, but you just want to make sure that you have total control of your listing and that it doesn't get hijacked to where you yourself can't even access it or make changes or make any updates. And so to keep things rolling here, let's jump back into the training. Just want to get those questions answered. But if you had a question that I was not able to get to, we will follow up with you and make sure that you get all your questions answered. So jumping back in, the third critical element for getting ranked on Google Maps is to have reviews, and most importantly is to have more reviews than your competitors. If we search for a remodeling company here in Denver, and you see here where the first listing has 44 reviews, and next listing has 38 reviews, And then the third listing in the 3-pack has 9 reviews. Now, it doesn't always work out this perfectly, but all things being equal, the company with the most reviews will typically outrank their competitors. Not always, but pretty typically. And Google is also looking at how many reviews that you have all across the web as well. They're looking at reviews on Yelp. They're looking at Angie's List. Now, they have a whole list that they look at to where other reviews are being left for your company. But from an overall standpoint, it's a combination of your website setup and your SEO. It's your citations. With all these things being equal, it's your online reviews that can really help you stand out. And again, all other things being equal, you've got to be doing everything right to really win the day against all your competitors who are all involved in SEO because they realize the return on investment they get from it. So let's talk about some specific strategies and some specific tools to get you more reviews and to kind of help you play this game right. The first thing is to make sure you're leveraging technology. I mean, if you are not sending a review request after every service call or completed project via email, via text message, or leaving a printed card, you're leaving opportunity on the table. Every single job has the potential for a good review for your company, and you're not going to get 100%, but if you're not asking for the review after every job, you're surely not getting as many as you could. It goes back to the old saying, you don't get what you don't ask for. You also have to train your team and your project managers to plant the seed of getting customer feedback. In a perfect world, you would have a process where the customer calls and schedules an estimate. In that process, your office manager would say something like, hey, by the way, I'm going to send you a photo of our guy in advance, and we're going to let you know when he is on his way via text message. And so I can get your cell can I get your cell number and email address? This is one of the biggest hurdles that companies have. They can't get the cell phone number or they can't get the email. And so these are the best ways to follow up with satisfied customers. If you can capture that contact info at the point of the estimate being scheduled, the resistance is practically non-existent. That's where you get this information so that, when the estimator goes out, he creates a great world-class experience for the customer. He shows up on time. He rolls out the red carpet, with cordiality and a smile. He puts on his booties to protect the home and keep the home clean, and he engages with the customer. And so most of you folks all know this strategy. You create this great customer experience, this great rapport, and then the estimator or project manager plants the seed for feedback after the job. Your project manager is not just saying, hey, thanks for your business, thanks for your payment, and then walking out the door. Instead, he's ending the appointment with something like, hey, you know what? I would really appreciate the opportunity to serve you today. And our company really thrives on positive feedback. And as a matter of fact, my position, my performance is graded based on the feedback I get from customers like you. You're going to be getting an email from our company a little bit later asking if you could take a minute to leave us some feedback. So if you would do that for me, that would really help me out a lot. You see this a lot in the automotive industry or the hospitality industry, but not as much in home services. But when you go and buy a car, it's almost every time they're telling you, hey, we're going to send you a survey. I need all 5 stars or I'm going to get fired, or, whatever these car salesmen usually tell you. And they usually are that forward with their language patterns. You want to train your crews maybe to not be that aggressive, but to plant the seed. They should know that they're going to get a request for customer feedback so that the company can know how they did for you as the consumer. And then you can have your office staff follow up after that appointment call as well. What we found is the best tools in the world will only get you so far. You can automate the review request till you're blue in the face, but in some cases, that's just not enough. People are lazy, and if they have the opportunity to say, yeah, I'll write you a review later, I'll give you feedback later, but then there's no follow through from your company to try and hold them accountable for that. These people are busy and they're like, nah, forget it, I didn't have time. So it ends up being 1 in 10 that will actually take that next step to leave you feedback. But if you do something like this, and it does take time, it does take energy, number of reviews that you get will increase significantly, I promise you. They say that people are more motivated by public recognition in front of their peers than they are by financial compensation. Financial compensation is important. Everyone wants to make more money, but a lot of people get a bigger rise out of being recognized in front of their peers. So, help your clients create that culture and to ask for, job feedback on a consistent basis. And then some companies also have prizes for the technicians that get the most feedback for that particular week or month. You can do contests for your project managers, gift cards, a new tool, things like that. But you really want to be creating a culture of creating a great customer experience, planting the seeds, and then holding your guys, your project manager, your crew accountable and pressing them for great positive feedback based on the services they provided by your company. There's some great tools out there to help with review request automation. We have our own tool that we've built for review automation, as well as strategies that we've built for asking for reviews, emails, text alerts, printed cards, that sort of thing. But other review services that I've seen that are most popular are Nearby Now, which is a tool that can create a unique geo-modified content for your different city pages. I mentioned this previously in our SEO workshops, but it can also automate the review request process or review request that goes out after every job or at least an appointment, if not a closed job. And then they have some unique tools also that they've added recently that can intelligently determine, is this a Google user, and then send them directly to Google, or if this is an Angie's List user, it kind of strategically gets the reviews on the sites that's easiest for the customers. Review Buzz is another good tool. One of the best things about Review Buzz is that it focuses on the customer choosing to write a review, not for your company, but for the technician or project manager that they work with. So it's built around the whole concept of you're not writing a review for Ralph's Remodeling, but rather you're giving feedback for Jimmy, who was your point of contact at your house. He treated you well. He left you with a smile on your face. And so you're going out of your way to give positive feedback for Jimmy in particular. That's one of the things that really makes Review Buzz really shine. And additionally, Review Buzz has a widget that you can add to your site that showcases all of the reviews right back to the source where they came from. Bird Eye is another tool, as well as Customer Lobby. So these are some of the automation tools that you could be using for getting more feedback for your company. In my mind, though, it's less about the tools and more about making sure that you have something you are using consistently and it's built into the way you operate as a company. So explore some of these tools, but most importantly, create a process that works for helping you get more reviews on a consistent basis. So I hope this helps. I hope this gives you guys some tools that you can tap into in order to help automate the review request process. The last piece, and this is relatively quick and it's simple to make sure, is that your on-page SEO optimization tells Google the name, address, and phone number that you have on your website is the same info that's on your Google Maps listing. That's the simplest thing that you can do if you want to make sure that you have your address on your site. You can add that in the footer on your site. That way your company name, address, and phone number is propagated across all pages of your website, and all of those pages, of course, match your Google Maps listing. You also want to have a hyperlink back to the Google Maps listing. This process works really well because you're essentially making it really easy for Google to make correlations about your company and your online presence. Google basically wants to make sure that all your info is correct, and so they send the spider bots to your website, and they're basically trying to verify all your information. So what you want to have on every page of your site is your matching name, address, and phone number, and then link that back to your map listing. So it kind of forms a complete circle. And when you do that, you're going to get a significantly greater probability of ranking on the maps in your service area. So at this point, we've kind of brought this whole conversation full circle. We talked about how to claim and optimize your Google business profile. As I mentioned, there are some very specific things that you can do to optimize the listing, and also to make sure you're not breaking any rules, that you are putting your best foot forward, and you're doing all the things that Google likes to see with their business listing online and according to their best practices. Now, you want to make sure you have a consistent name, address, and phone number with lots of citations and consistency of how your contact information is referenced all across the internet. And I gave you specific tools to automate this process, tools to kind of scale and make sure that you've got all this right all across the internet. We also talked about reviews and how reviews really help Google and gives Google the confidence that you are the authority in your industry and in the markets that you serve. Basically, Google is seeing that you have tons of citations all over the internet, and you have tons of great feedback from your real customers in your real service area. And so I also talked about some great automation tools for making this process as simple as possible. And lastly, we just talked about how to optimize the on-page SEO factor on your website, which is that name, address, and phone number consistency that we've been talking about. Obviously, there are many other things that you can do from an SEO perspective in order to optimize your website further. We talked a lot about that in previous trains we've done on this year on how to optimize your website for conversions, and then the SEO workshop that we just did last month had a lot of great info in it as well. So all in all, you now have the formula, and now you can either choose to execute it on your own, or you can choose to let us do this for you with our team. We also have some nifty tricks using GMB posts and linking them together, and just like the maps links that we talked about, pointing back and forth from your GMB list and your website. You can do the same thing by linking your various GMB posts together. There are so many things you can do, and it really boils down to trying to do as many as you can, and to definitely be doing more than your competitors are. Again, kind of try to pay attention to that 80-20 rule, and that will take you a long way. But basically, this is what we do. This is our specialty. We work exclusively with home improvement and remodeling companies and builders all throughout the country. And so we essentially have our processes dialed in as tight as we can. If you'd like to talk with us about us helping you with your overall internet strategy, helping you with getting your citations done, getting your reviews strategy all synced up so that you can maximize your lead flow online, then I encourage you to call us at 855-235-9140. We'll start by doing a complete review of your current rankings. We'll look at your Google map listings. We'll help you find inconsistencies that may be present. And we'll look at your online reputation and tell you, where you might find some improvement there. And we can also do a review of your website for you. Our goal is to come to the table with ways in which you can improve your online presence and ultimately how to maximize your lead flow online. Now, if you want to rewatch this presentation anytime, if you want to get access to some of the links I shared or access to some of the tools that I talked about after the session, give me some time and I'll get this presentation uploaded. But you can go to homeremodellerseo.com/Google Maps citations right now. And there you can revisit everything that we've talked about in terms of citations and how to outsource some of that through the resources that I've provided you. So that pretty much wraps up our training today. I want to do a quick Q&A again here because we have a few more questions that have just come in. One question from Victor said, I only have one keyword ranking in maps, but I have many organic listings. How do I get more keywords to rank in maps? Okay, good question, Victor. That really depends on the keywords. Some keywords are highly competitive, so you want to make sure that you have your categories right in your Google business listing. Also making sure that your website is optimized for those different keywords on the different various service pages that you have. And also with your geo-targeted location pages that mention that keyword, those will help you rank better. And we talked about geo-targeted location pages in our SEO webinar last month. And then the next question, Sarah asked, how do I run PPC ads that will show in maps? Okay, so that's a great question, and one I'll be covering in more detail when we do our next trainings on how to leverage pay-per-click on Google, as well as the local service ads that are rolling out. So basically, how to do this is when you set up your Google AdWords campaign, you sync it with your Google business listing when you're setting up your AdWords campaign, setting up your keywords, your extensions, and then you also sync your location. Once your location is your Google My Business location, in other words, once it's synced up with your Google AdWords account, then you can begin bidding in Google Maps as well as trying to bid it and be at the top of the page for the PPC results. Of note here, you're not really setting up a separate ad campaign just for Maps, but once you synced up, Google will then share your ads in Maps for relevant keyword searches. So that's a great question, Sarah. Frank also just asked, I have a competitor that is using their virtual office run by Regis. Will Google figure this out, that this is not a real office address? Yeah, so the reality is that Google may catch this or they may not. With Google's continued crackdown on virtual office locations, they have indexed and pretty much flagged every known virtual office location. So most of those are known, especially those offered by Regis or another virtual office provider, DaVinci, as well as UPS stores, similar offerings. Their guidelines contend that this is not a real office or a real business location, and these types of listings will not be accepted. It says it right in Google's sign up and terms. So it's much, much harder to get these locations verified today, but the reality is that Google may never come back through and find that particular virtual office listing. So the bottom line is that competitor can disappear from Maps at any time. So using virtual offices like that is not really a good long-term strategy for your business. So great questions, everyone. I love the Q&A sessions. They can be really powerful and really help flesh out, some more of those questions that you might have. So thank you for everyone sticking around and asking such good questions. With that said, I want to wrap up today and just say thank you for being here today. Thank you for your feedback and questions. I appreciate it. If I didn't get your questions answered, if you're still unsure of your strategy on how to rank on Google Maps or would like to talk to us about doing this with you, then reach out to us by going to our website or give us a call or fill out the contact form on our website and we'll get back with you. We'd love to talk with you about the possibility of working together. We've created immense success for so many other remodeling and construction companies, roofers, other home improvement companies. So go ahead and reach out to us, 855-235-9140. Thank you again so much for your time. I know how busy everyone's day is. And so I hope you've gotten good value out of this training. And we'll look forward to talking to you again soon on the next training. Take care. We'll see you.